All right. I am Jason, or Reeds, depending on what platform. And this is my mini jam game, 1 Minute to Die. The theme is time, as you can probably infer by the clock, with the limitation of a 4-color palette, similar to the Game Boy, which I attempted to emulate, but it might not be exact. Basically, it's a finesse platformer, or that's at least what I called it. There's a couple minor mechanics, but the main one, the one driving the game, is the clock hand that goes around each level and will kill you if it touches you. And it completes that revolution in exactly a minute. So you have a minute to die or a minute to win, depending on how you look at it. So yeah, 72 Hours was a solo project. Used Game Maker Studio 2. Very, very, very fast way to prototype games. But obviously I was at school at the time too, and needed to sleep and work, and so obviously I didn't use the full 72 hours. But yeah, let's get started. Controls are pretty standard for a platformer, I would say. Arrow keys to move, space to jump. Nothing revolutionary there. Get the mouse out of the way. This is the tutorial, which I added before I put the reset mechanic in, so it doesn't actually say anything about pressing R to reset, but you can do that. This level is just to familiarize the player with the basics of platforming: walk, jump, fall. And your goal is to rotate around the level, avoiding the clock hand, and getting to the stopwatch. And building off of that, you have the second level, Switch It Up, which is really just to introduce these very simple switches. Just turns the sprite off. But obviously you can't pass until you turn it off, so the player either learns or repeatedly dies. It's not what I would call a challenging mechanic, but necessary to introduce nonetheless. Expansion is really just meant to show that the levels get bigger, and the time doesn't change. You still have exactly a minute to finish, so if you get stuck, you just gotta retry. There's also a bit more advanced platforming, but it's nothing that someone couldn't do. While I have some time to kill, let me just talk about the physics of the player. So you do this little bit of sliding. There's no like momentum canceling in the air. If you stop pressing the button, you're gonna keep sliding until the momentum dies out. That gives them a bit of a, I don't know, cool feeling when you platform, where you don't just exactly stop in the air if you stop pressing the button, which kind of like, you know, gives the player a little bit of weight. This level is to introduce the new mechanic, the teleports. Can't actually make it up there, no matter how hard you try. But they also do this thing where if their twin is destroyed, you can't go in them anymore. So either you gotta die or you gotta reset. So from that, the player learns that they need to make it over to this teleport before its buddy is destroyed. You get on this super secret passageway, flip that lever, and come out right where you saw the other teleport that you couldn't get to. After that, it's really just some basic platforming, and on to the next level. The Gauntlet combines both levers and teleports in a much more advanced fashion. The level's a lot more spread out. The player needs to learn to remember and traverse accordingly. Oops. That just teleports them to a totally different part, so it kind of throws you off a little bit, but you still get back to the correct track. This little part was really funny because nobody knew, because I didn't teach them, that you could delay your jump like this. So they smacked their faces on that over and over again. Felt a little bit bad for that, to be honest. Yeah. Number 6, Labyrinthian, is the final level. It's supposed to be just the final challenge. This part right here is definitely one of the hardest parts, and even if you fail, it teleports you back. But the sadistic thing is, even if you make it back to here, you're not making it past the end of the level without restarting. So they're kind of just there to taunt you. Here's the first and only puzzle in the game. It's not even really a puzzle, but there's a correct way to do it and a slow way to do it. That was the correct way. The soundtrack you're hearing, probably a lot quieter in the background because I had turned it down so you could actually hear me, is something I wrote in Reaper with the help of Albion 1 and a couple other VST libraries. It's supposed to be very stressful, and was told that it was. So I think that's a win. Right, the very final stopwatch. Coming to the end of A Minute to Die. Pretty short game, but you know, that's what I had the time to do. Yeah, I feel like the fundamental parts of the game went well. The platforming felt pretty solid. The levers were responsive. All that yada yada. Even had time to implement controller controls. So I'd say a win-win. I hope to be making more of these on my other jam entries, and hopefully there'll be no shortage of those since there's another jam tonight. And yeah, just see you then. Thanks for watching.